Do you think because of your head injury, you find joy in the simple things?
Everything simple. Oh my gosh, anything simple. The sun could set a totally different way and I'm gonna be like, oh my God, look at it.
You just appreciate things more.
Everything.
Okay, May.
Yes.
So, I'm really grateful that you're here
Uh-huh.
to share your story with me. We're always so awkward when we're together.
Always.
I just love you. From back in the day when we would do the sign language
I know.
with the church singing, and we would sit and try to learn
Sit in the
this.
sign language section.
We were pretty good.
We think we were. I don't think anyone told us differently. So, I mean, I don't know.
You've always just been a very happy person
Uh-huh.
and fun. And I know we kind of went to different schools and ended up making different friends. And I think we both definitely went through a party phase.
Yes.
And I tried to work where you worked, but my parents wouldn't let me. And I was so mad.
They were better parents.
They would
They did you a huge favor.
I was really upset about it because I really wanted to work there with you. But I know you told me like that your environment, and I think it's really important because like I have a brother-in-law who's in food and beverage, and a lot of people in that industry. I have a friend whose husband just had to quit his job because when you're in that all the time, and even me working in a restaurant, it's like the stress from dealing with your customers and like just the alcohol being around and just the lifestyle can really kind of overtake you without you really being aware of it.
Yeah. I got thrown into it at I was still a teen, 18 and on. And it was, you're still at a very learning age, even though you think you know it all.
Yeah.
And you're impressionable. And I remember you go in and you're told in a way, you're only a pretty face. Like you are to do this, this, and this. Like if they buy you a drink, you have to drink the drink. If they say this, you have to go with it. You don't have a say. You don't get anything like that. And so you get pushed into this environment.
You're basically like a tool to sell more alcohol.
Yes, you get pushed into this
going.
environment where all of a sudden, I remember there was one day, and years had gone by, and I was still here because the money is great in those locations. And I remember there was one incident happening over here and another one over here, and I just remember being like, I am so numb to the fact that it's like I'm in the middle of hell. Like it.
What were the instances? Do you want to talk about it?
I don't want to say them because any way it would offend somebody. It's not what I was trying to do. It was just one of those things that I knew from what you grow up in, morals and all that you learn. It's surrounded like anything immoral?
Immoral?
Immoral. Is what was around me, and I was fine with it.
Like you were just so
and it was that I remember being like, wow, this is not what I grew up like. And
yeah, because how did you grow up? Your dad was really strict, right?
And like bluegrass in the Bible, like
yeah,
that's all you get. I mean, homeschool, private school.
Yeah, I forgot you were homeschooled.
Yeah, they put flute, piano, dance.
Yeah.
Nothing of worldly things almost, I feel.
Do you think that kind of like made you want it more? Like, do you think like the way you grew up like made you want to like?
I don't know if it was that. I feel that was one of the things I think, growing up and navigating life, you go back and forth with, but I'm so grateful that I was so grounded from
like
such
to have
a
the
young
foundation
age that I may have gone down horrible paths, but
my
faith in never wavered. Like that never was like, a question.
That's so cool you say that, because like you hear, especially having kids, like raise up a child the way that they should go. If
and
they
they'll
stray,
always, yes. Mm-hmm.
it's like they'll come back.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things like, you know, I'm raising my kids to know God and Jesus as their Lord and Savior, and it's like, am I indoctrinating them? Like, should I like give them all the world religions and let them pick? You know, like there's all these different approaches. But that's really interesting you said that, because I think that was my saving grace too.
Yes.
Is having been brought up in the principles and morals that I was brought up in, that, yeah, I partied and got wild, but then I was like, okay, this can't be my life. Like, this can't be forever how I choose to live my life.
Yeah.
And that's really a big difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you were in that situation, you were like desensitized to everything going on around you. And so you didn't have any like conviction to leave that lifestyle or to make any changes?
I did, but it was the money that would bring me back. So I had Emma I had just turned 21. I mean, I was 8 months pregnant at 21. So anything needing to be done school-wise or anything to move as an adult,
To like have another job.
I kind of got stuck backwards, and it was my way to still be able to take care of her and know, okay, if I have to go to school now, then I'm not gonna get all this done. And it's like a battle. Like, which one do you...
Well, yeah, because you need money to raise a child.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're making good money.
Mm-hmm. But in the same sense, I was not taking advantage of the people I had around me that were helping me, that I could have easily done it.
Like gone to school.
Mm-hmm. Like, I had my grandparents around at that time. My mom was a huge help at that time. So there were people, and I was using them, but I was using them to still be 21.
To still, yeah.
So I wasn't the greatest, I guess, as you could say. I mean, loved Emma.
Right, of course.
Like, never didn't. It was just...
So walk me up to like the time before your head injury.
I was working VIP, which means in any place that you work at, you're working with the higher end clientele.
Like, what were some of your clientele? Like athletes and things like that?
A lot of athletes, majority athletes, and then just business people who are, you know,
very well
off. So in that, again, like I said, most people were buying bottles. Well, they had to. Actually, they couldn't just buy a drink.
You're right.
And they always made you a drink. Always made you a drink. Always just, you know. So I am 4'11", and at the time was maybe 99 pounds. So didn't take very much to like get me over. And I was asked to work a golf event, which is normal when you're in that industry. They do tons of golf events for all, you know, things. And I was a caddy girl, so I was to be with people. They would just switch me in and out and making their drinks in their own golf cart the whole time.
So you were hopping from golf cart to
yes,
golf cart.
And of course they were, you know, making me drinks at the same time, usually probably way heavy-handed.
Right.
And I think I was probably way too drunk before even noon, because golf usually starts pretty early.
Well, that's a big thing to drink and play golf.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a lot of people would play golf if it didn't involve drinking, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Like the majority.
Yeah.
So you were hopping from golf cart to golf cart. You were having fun, and you were just doing your job.
Yeah. Tons of people I knew. It wasn't like I was around a bunch of strangers.
It was like regular people who would
regular
come in
people,
and be with you.
People I also worked with. No one out of the ordinary was with me.
And then what happened?
I needed to use the restroom, and we were on a really big golf course, so they didn't want me to go alone, obviously. So they had somebody that I did know and felt comfortable with.
That you work with.
Yes, take me. All that went well. This was all later told to me because after this point, I don't remember.
You don't remember.
Um,
You don't remember, like you remember having to go to the bathroom, but then you
Mhm.
don't remember after that.
yeah.
Okay.
We get back in the golf cart to head back. From my understanding, they came to like a fork in the road, obviously, and we went to go right, and they realized we needed to go left, so they turned the wheel really quick, which wouldn't be a big issue if I wasn't like the smallest person ever at that time, and I flung out.
I thought for some reason you fell in the bathroom.
A lot of people did. That was a huge like back and forth thing, that I fell in the bathroom, and it's not what
So you
happened.
flew out of the golf cart.
I flew out of the golf cart, but when I flew out of the golf cart, my foot was stuck kind of in the window part, so I got drug a little bit as well. Yeah, super fun. But he, I guess, had stopped the golf cart immediately and, ran over and said, oh my gosh, probably freaking out. He said I had jumped up, like just jumped up and
Probably
was like,
just
I'm okay.
adrenaline
Yeah,
when
I'm
those things
okay. I'm
happen.
okay. And I got back in the golf cart, and all of a sudden he said I just pretty much just passed back out. And he went to like the nearest hole where he saw people we knew, and I think they were pouring water on me, and he, if I'm correct, wasn't telling anyone I fell because we were in our young 20s, and I'm pretty sure he was probably completely freaked out, just didn't know. So they just think
he didn't know. No one knew that you fell out of the golf cart.
No. So I think just led people to believe I was
just
drunk and passed out. So they, I guess, were throwing water on me, and eventually everyone was around me. And I only know this because I later on saw like some video footage of the situation, and I'm completely laid out in the golf cart, and everyone's just kind of laughing about it because they just think I'm wasted.
What is it like to watch that bad?
Oh, I cried. I was crying. Yeah, it was not fun.
Because it's like dehumanizing almost, right?
Well, and these are people I thought were friends, and whether I was drunk or not, I'm
Passed
now
out.
completely alone.
Like an unconscious.
No idea what's going on. And in the video, I see the person that was with me get in another golf cart and leave. So
They
almost
abandoned you.
like to get out of the situation.
They ran.
Yeah. But in the same video, I see another great friend of mine at the time. He just miraculously showed up to this event. He wasn't even a part of it. And he puts his hand in the camera and yanks it down and is yelling for people to stop. He then, I guess, told them, I'm going to take her home because, again, everyone just thinks I'm drunk. He had called my mom and them and was like, look, I have Megan. I'm just going to let her sleep it off, whatever's going on.
Oh, my goodness. And this guy just didn't even tell anyone.
Nobody knew. It wasn't until we got to the house, and I think he had someone else with him, that I, again, apparently jumped up and kind of like woke up and came to. And he said he was like, wow, this is a weird kind of drunk, because I grabbed him and I kept crying, don't let me die. And he just didn't know like what was going on with me.
Yeah.
He was like, okay, let's, go lay down.
Yeah.
And it was then that I then went to vomit, which most do when they're drunk or something. And he went to hold my hair back and my head flapped open. I know, it sounds really gross.
So like your head, like back here, just opened up?
Yes, this whole back was just, my skull.
So it hadn't have been bleeding or anything?
It was. I had really dark hair, and so my hair was wet. They just all thought I was sweating, and then once he went back to the car, he saw in his seat there was blood where my head had been. So he immediately was like, okay, how do I tell her I have to take her to the hospital? And so he gets me to the nearest one and called everyone that needed to know. And the hospital, pretty much, I had to go in all the machines and all the stuff, and I had a fractured left temporal, which is this whole side, and a damaged frontal, and then 17 staples in the back of my head. And they had to take rags to like clean all the blood like out of my head. And if he hadn't have showed up and I would have just stayed there, that I would have bled out.
You would have died.
Yeah. In the heat, bleeding, head open.
With the guy who was with you gone.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that there were like it was a significant head injury.
Yeah. So that's the thing, I guess, that I had to learn the hard way. When it comes to anything to do with the head, the significance of what happened a lot of times isn't seen immediately.
Right.
Because it's all brain. And you have to kind of go with each day to see how it's going to unfold.
And so did you have to spend some time in the hospital, or were you able to go home?
Yeah, I was in ICU for a little bit because obviously they have to monitor for anything.
Like brain swelling, right?
Yeah, brain swelling. That was a big one. I had to keep going back and forth a lot, to get spinal taps and all that to check even once I was out.
To see if there was like an infection or something?
Infections, all of that, because it was an open wound. But it's more or less a lot healing on your own.
Okay.
At home, which I was really bad at. I kept going. I just kept thinking I could do everything. And then I'd end up back in the hospital. And they were like, you have to lay down. So
wow.
They had to like really knock me out pretty much for a long time.
So obviously you felt abandoned, betrayed, alone. And you said that this helped bring you back to your faith?
It did for a couple different reasons. One of the things, and it may have been insignificant to other people in the room, but to me it was huge. The doctor at one point said that my fracture was 1 millimeter away from completely cracking, and I would have bled out quickly.
And 1 millimeter.
I looked at that as, wow, God really had to drop me on my head and like get me that close to like open my eyes. And then Emma, I remember I kept thinking the whole time, like they would be like doing things in my head, like I gotta stay alive, I gotta stay alive.
For your daughter?
Yes, kept thinking of Emma a lot.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So I know like God definitely had a hand in sending that person to get you that day.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it had to have been really painful to see your friends and that betrayal there.
Yes.
And how did you cope during that healing time with everything that you had gone through and kind of like
it's a hard thing because you can't, I don't know if it's everyone with a head injury, but apparently it is something that is known. I didn't get a chance to fully deal with the situation during the healing because you're very preoccupied. I mean, you're very medicated. You're very just alone. You can't.
Isolated.
You're very isolated. And then I went through something called psychosis, which is apparently something that does happen during the healing of a head injury.
And tell me about that.
Well, it started with one night I was obviously laying down because can't do anything else. And it was as if you're hearing like a tapping, like on the wall, like very close to me. Like I just heard like a tapping out of nowhere. And I remember being up and I'm like looking for the tap and I feel like it just keeps running away from me. So I'm like looking like a crazy person, like up against the wall, like trying to find this noise. And so I would just finally just leave that room, be like, okay, I don't know what's going on in there. And then I would hear as if like a water faucet is dripping or something.
Just
and
like hear noises that
weird,
weren't there.
random, just inconveniences. And it got to where it becomes uncomfortable. You know, like something's not right with it. And I remember I would blare Christian music in the house. That was the only way I would feel comfortable or sleep.
So did you ever take any medication for the psychosis, or?
No, they said when I went to the neurologist, he pretty much said it is a normal thing, and it's something that goes away with healing and time.
And the Christian music helped?
It helped me in the sense whatever I was feeling was around me. I didn't feel it was a positive thing. And, it's not even that anything was trying to personally attack. It almost just felt like there was dread or just a heavy,
bad energy?
All around, yeah.
All
around. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I know they say with postpartum depression and stuff like that, if you don't treat it, it can turn into psychosis. Psychosis is a real thing that people deal with and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I've never heard anyone else talk about having it, and worship music definitely. Right?
Yeah.
So how long did it take you to heal from your head injury?
I think fully to be more human again, about a year.
And how did you deal with your friends that you thought were your friends? You really had a hard truth of that veil being removed. These people aren't my friends.
I don't think I handled it well, but it's such a blur, and I don't really remember too much. I know that I did eventually have a talk with the person who was in the golf cart with me. And it was years later when the truth was finally revealed to me, what had happened, because it was years that no one was really telling me.
And you really didn't
And
know.
I heard every rumor that was out there, which was the hardest, because you're like, are any of these true?
Yeah.
Is any of this real? Really what happened? And once I knew that, I still had to sit with it for a little bit, but I don't feel it. I really got fully better and from the situation until a few years ago that I just
were able to kind of cope with it.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened?
For it.
What happened a few years? Did anything happen? Or
I think it was when I had spoke with that person, and I was finally able to just learn, and
to
live
know
and process it myself.
Yeah.
That I was able to really get through it. But
is there a Bible verse or a prayer that you would say that helps you?
I don't have a Bible verse or prayer specifically that I have ever that's my go-to, because everything changes, and I can't tell you how many times I've read the Bible and you find something brand new and amazing each time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the most that I learned, and one of the biggest stories I think I've gotten from the Bible, I actually ended up getting it on me. And I remember the tattoo person was like, nobody ever would put this on their body.
What is it?
So
it
says unworthy. So again, like he said, no one would ever.
Most people would get worthy.
Exactly. But there's a story in the Bible about Peter. And when Peter was also crucified. And he did not want to be crucified the same way as Jesus, because he was unworthy to die like Christ. And I feel it's a lesson for all of us, because I feel everyone thinks of their life is something amazing, which it is, but it's amazing for the whole picture. There's so many other little things, and everyone thinks they're the great one, this amazing person or whatever. And it's like a humbling, grounded, bring you back to reality. It's not all about you.
Wow, what a takeaway. Because the world we live in now, it's everything is just so hyper-focused on us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so unhealthy in so many ways to
mm-hmm.
put all that pressure on your life story and
Yeah.
you know, to have that kind of approach is
Well, I mean, the most insignificant thing can happen to someone and they think it's like this massive thing, and we've all done it. And then, you know, we grow up and we're like, oh my gosh, I was upset about that. Like, that was nothing.
yeah.
And it's, I don't know, it's my humbling.
One thing I want to talk to you about is because I think a lot of people our age, not to like throw this on the spot, but a lot of women our age, maybe of all ages, I think friendship is a huge struggle. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because it's like you have this idea of wanting to have like a real friend, you know? And I don't think we get that a lot. You know what I mean? As far as like a friend that will endure through thick and thin. You know, and I know you've gone through changes with friendships and disappointments with that. And so have I. And Jesus is supposed to be the great, like the Bible says, he's our greatest friend that we'll ever have. And do you think that we kind of falter in thinking we can get that from people?
That's a good. I don't know if I would say it's a fault. I think it's human.
To do it, yeah.
Yeah. Just like marriage, no one's going to be exactly what you
Like
need them to be or want them to be. It's a back and forth.
Did the person that who was there when you fell, did he say he was sorry?
Absolutely.
So he's a changed person, you'd say?
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it's been a while, but even through all of it, while I was healing, he was always very there for me. I think internally he was probably fighting with his own
demons
of what was happening, and I'm pretty sure once I was told the truth, it probably made him feel a lot better too. So I'm sure I you know, everyone had their thing, and that's why I said he was young, scared, probably freaked out, thought he probably was going to get in like so much trouble.
Were you ever resentful to him, or did you ever blame him, or were you ever mad at him? Like, did you?
I think I blamed everyone at one point in my life.
Do you think when you talked to him, you were able to finally come to terms with forgiving him?
Yeah, I was. I don't look at him as a bad person whatsoever. No.
Yeah.
No. Anyone involved, honestly. I mean, I hope everyone's doing well. And
are there any like lingering effects that you have to your?
Yeah. I lost partial hearing in my left ear. So it's really funny, like when I'm sleeping at night or in bed and Matt's trying to talk to me and I'm like, what?
You use it to your advantage and put them over here. No, just kidding.
I know, my sense of smell went away. And then I really had to work on my short-term memory for a long time. That took a lot of, you could say it while I'm writing it and then having to go back, and it was like training my memory to kind of keep all that stuff again.
Wow. So would you say, looking at your life story, that was probably one of the most impactful things in changing your life?
It was, and it wasn't just because I fell and, you know, lived or anything like that. I completely changed my lifestyle. Like, everything flipped. I stopped drinking. I never drink. I mean, it's funny because Matt will have a glass of wine and I don't want it at all. Being out at any social event, whether it's a charity or not, does it weigh higher than putting my kids to bed? You know?
So like your perspective.
Yes.
Because would you say before it would have weighed higher?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I would want to get in the fancy dress and get ready, and now I've taken from being outgoing to almost very introverted, and maybe I'll need to find a happy medium, but for now, I feel, as long as to me, and I feel it's for anyone, if you can go to bed at night and feel you took every minute of that day and either did it in a way that made you feel happy and good, then that's all that matters. If it means being an Uber to my daughter's cheer back and forth, like, then that's what I'm doing that day. Or
Do you think because of your head injury, you find joy in the simple things?
everything simple. Oh my gosh, anything simple. The sun could set a totally different way, and I'm gonna be like, oh my God, look at it.
You just appreciate things more.
Everything. Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
have like a new lease on life. Like
Mhm.
you're grateful for that millimeter and you're going to
That
enjoy it.
millimeter. And I am grateful for little things. So like, I heard someone one time say, oh, I would never buy a secondhand like ring from a pawn shop. And I'm like, why? It's got a story. Like, give it a second chance. Like, I see things, maybe it's weird and a little off and quirky, but it's, I don't know.
It changed your perspective
Mhm.
on life.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're raising your kids and teaching them about God?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And they ask questions that, you know, every once in a while, they're just different humans, you know. My daughter's one that she'll ask and then she'll be like, I don't want to know, I'm going to figure it out on my own. Like, you're like, okay, but can I kind of help you?
Wow.
But it's, you know, everyone's different, have their own path. So again, you know, you try, like you said, do you raise them to, you know, only believe this, or it's everyone's, I think they'll naturally kind of show you where they need to go.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your
You're
story and your
welcome.
tattoo. I think we can all really relate to that. And I think that's a really good reminder to not take yourself a little too seriously or
Yeah.
enjoy the simple things, right?
Yes. Everything.
Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
You know I love you. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today, and I can't wait to see your comments and how this was impactful, and we'll see you next time.